Welcome back, friends. So today we are learning about selection tests that are used by organizations to select the best in class talent. So up till now we have learnt about intelligence test, we have learnt about the ability or achievement test, and also the situational tests. And we have also learnt about the various subcategories of all these three tests. So moving further, currently now we will learn about the interest test. So interest in a job or a task, it definitely contributes to the success on the job. A person interested in his or her job is likely to do better than one who is indifferent or uninterested. So interest tests have been designed to discover a person's field of interest and to identify the kind of work that will satisfy him or her. Now when you are satisfied, you are definitely going to perform better. When you are happy with your work, when you are satisfied with your work, it improves your productivity, and that definitely helps the candidate as well as the organization. So it is very important that whatever you are doing, whatever job you are into, you must have interest in that particular job. So you might be having the ability to learn, you might be best analytical mind, and situationally you are able to cope up with certain peculiarities in the situation or dynamic situation you are able to handle. But until and unless you have interest in your job, you cannot give your 100%. So this test is based on the assumption that there is a high correlation between the interest of a candidate in a job and job success. So you will be successful in your job only if you have great interest or high interest in your job, whatever you are doing. So they are, in a sense, inventories of the likes and dislikes of the people of some occupations. So this test helps to make some inventory, a list of your likes and your dislikes, and that helps to determine whether you will be successful in this particular job or not. So though the interest tests are standardized, some organizations develop their own tests to suit their requirements, especially when there is a persistent demand for a large number of new people for a single job. And such developed tests are called as tailor-made or customized tests. The next category of test is the personality tests. These are very important, very significant in today's times, because the importance of personality in a job success is undeniable. Because for certain kind of jobs, your personality greatly matters. So often an individual who possesses the intelligence, he has the aptitude and experience for certain, has failed. Why? They failed because of the inability to get along with and motivate other people. So it is not only important to have the IQ, the aptitude, the experience of doing a job, but in today's scenario, and we can say there are certain kinds of jobs where getting along with people, motivating people, developing relationships with your people, and you all know that every organization has people at all corners of its aspects, whether it is the vendors, whether it is your customers, whether it is your employees, they all are people. And if you do not know how to get along with people, how to talk to people, how to behave with them, how to motivate them, how to think about their betterment, you cannot only succeed on the basis of just because you are intelligent enough. So in such jobs, personality of an individual plays a great role. So that must be tested when you are hiring people for jobs where a lot of interaction with people is involved. So the aim of these tests is to evaluate the whole personality of a candidate, such as his emotional reactions, maturity level, social or interpersonal skills, behavior under stress and strain, etc. So personality doesn't mean simply how you walk and how you talk. It is more than that, right? It involves the mindset, it involves the interpersonal skills and how emotionally intelligent you are. So that is why a lot of stress is given on emotional quotient or EQ. That is why today we have moved from IQ to EQ. Of course, your intelligence is important in performing a job, but more than your intelligence, it is your emotional connect with your people that is more, we can say, demanding today. So this test is very much essential in selection of sales force for public relation staff, where more and more interaction with people is concerned. So they are expressed in traits like self-confidence, the kind of confidence you have, how optimistic you are, your emotional control, are you able to control your emotions, are you able to understand the emotions of other people, whether you are decisive or not, your sociability, how social you are, how you connect with the people around, conformity, objectivity, your patience while you are dealing, because in certain departments or certain jobs where you have to deal with the customers on a daily basis, you need to have patience, you need to have the patience to listen, to understand what the other person is saying. Then fear, your distrust, your initiative, judgments, dominance or submission, your impulsiveness, sympathy, and more than sympathy, it is the empathy that is important today. Your integrity as an individual, as a employee, what is your integrity, your stability. So these all traits are judged, these are all traits are measured during the personality tests. So these personality tests are of two types. First one is the objective test and the second one is the projection test. So as far as the objective test is concerned, it is suitable for group testing and it can be scored objectively. And these tests measure the neurotic tendencies like self-sufficiency, like dominance, submission and self-control. And one such test is the Burn Center Personality Inventory. The second personality test, and very important and very interesting to learn, is the projective tests. So projective tests, the candidates are asked to project their own interpretation of certain standard stimulus based on some ambiguous pictures, figures, etc. So you can see in this slide there are two set of pictures. The upper one is the that of two girls sitting, and the lower one is a test which we are going to learn in detail, a very interesting test called the ink blot test. So these are we can say ambiguous pictures, they do not have a specific meaning, but you have to write what you see, and that is how your personality is judged on the basis of these tests. So the way they respond to these stimuli depends on their own values, motives and personality. So one such test is the Rorschach blot test and the thematic apperception test. So let's learn about the Rorschach test. Very interesting test. So the test is named after its creator, a Swiss psychologist called Hermann Rorschach. So his interest in ink blots developed during childhood, and as a child he used to make ink blots on a piece of paper, and he used to imagine what these images could be, and this interest continued into adulthood. and later on he started working in a psychiatric hospital. And while working, he applied, just out of curiosity, he started applying or using those ink blots to judge people. And in that psychiatric hospital, he noticed that patients with schizophrenia, they responded to the blots differently from patients with other diagnoses. So he got the confidence that yes, these ink blots and how people respond and how people understand what these ink blots could be, can be used in getting insights into their minds, into their personalities. So he further realized that people with the same kind of disorders responded to these ink blots in a similar manner. So he observed a kind of a pattern in how people responded to those ink blots. So he began wondering if these ink blots could be used to create profiles for different mental disorders. So Rorschach developed a systematic approach to using ink blots as an assessment tool, and that a person's interpretation of an ambiguous scene might reveal the hidden aspects of that individual's personality. So as we all know, personality is not what just simply what we see. Personality is deep down within us, and there are certain hidden aspects of every individual. So these Rorschach ink blots could be used as assessment tools to get an insight into what are the hidden personality aspects of an individual, which are not clearly visible in the person. So it is a projective psychological test in which the subject's perceptions of ink blots are recorded and then analyzed using psychological interpretation, complex algorithms, or it can be both. And for analyzing these tests, you need to have great expertise. Everybody cannot interpret it. It has a particular system of interpretation, and some psychologists use this test to examine a person's personality characteristics and even their emotional functioning. So it is employed to detect underlying thought disorder, especially in cases where people are reluctant to describe their thinking processes openly. So as I said that when certain aspects are not visible and when people do not talk openly or reluctant to talk much, so these tests can be used to determine the underlying thoughts and perceptions of an individual. And the Rorschach test has grown to be one of the most popularly used psychological tests used in psychotherapy and counseling. And it also helps in obtaining a great deal of qualitative information about a person, including their personality, the emotional functioning, and the thinking patterns. And these aspects are very important when you are hiring people for certain jobs. So though there are certain criticisms also, because people feel, or the psychologists feel, that it is not a valid test, or it is not a very reliable test. It can be subjective at times, and how you interpret, the interpretations can be different. I might be interpreting a certain test in a certain way, and the other person might interpret it as different. So how you judge a particular person when you do not have a particular set of criteria? But in spite of these criticisms, Rorschach test is one of the most we can say popularly used psychological tests. The second test, the personality test that we are going to talk of, is the thematic apperception test, or the TAT. Now this test was developed by American psychologists Henry Murray and Christina Morgan at the Harvard University in the 1930s. And it is a type of projective test that involves describing ambiguous scenes Popularly, it is known as the picture interpretation technique. Now, the TAT involves showing people a series of picture cards depicting a variety of ambiguous characters. Now, these characters could be men, could be women, children, or there could be scenes or certain situations, as you can see in this slide. So, these figures or these pictures are shown to the candidates or to the applicants, and then they are asked to develop a story, and this story must be dramatic as far as possible, and the story must include that what has led up to the event that is being shown to you, what is happening in the scene, what are the thoughts and feelings of the characters, and what could be the outcome of the story. So, it can be one picture or it can be a series of pictures that are shown to you, and you are supposed to make a dramatic story out of those pictures, and how you interpret those characters, how you interpret that particular lady or a person lying on the bed, how you interpret those things that depict your certain aspects, certain emotional aspects of your personality. So, the TAT can be utilized in a number of different ways. It helps us to learn more about a person. So, any kind of situational test or ability test will not help you to get deeper insights of a person's personality, where these tests can be used to learn more about the emotional aspect of an individual. So, in this way the test acts as something of an icebreaker while providing useful information about potential emotional conflicts that the person might be having. Then this test also helps people express their feelings, and there it is often believed that whatever is going on inside deep inside your personality or your mind, that is depicted through how you write, how you feel about those pictures. So, it is often used as a therapeutic tool to express feelings in a non-direct way. So, in an indirect way, you are trying to find out the feelings of a particular person. It is also used to explore themes related to person's life experiences. For example, people dealing with problems such as job loss, divorce, or health issues might interpret the ambiguous scenes and relating to their unique circumstances, allowing deeper exploration. So, at times you are dealing with certain problems, you are in pain, you have lost somebody, some dear one, you are dealing with any kind of health problem. So, those pains and those feelings do get highlighted when you see those pictures and you interpret those pictures. So, and that allows deeper exploration of your personality. And then these tests are also used to assess someone for psychological conditions, that, and it can be used as a tool to assess the personality or thought disorders, we may say. And very importantly, it is done to screen job candidates. So, it is used to determine if people are suited to particular roles, especially positions that require coping with stress, evaluating vague situations such as military leadership and law enforcement positions. So, this test is widely used to screen job candidates as well. The next interesting test is the Graphology Test. So, this test seeks to predict the success and failure of a candidate through his or her handwriting. Very interesting, and it was first used by a French priest, Jean Hippolyte Micon, in 1830. Now, it has been said that an individual's handwriting can suggest the degree of energy, the inhibition and spontaneity as well as disclose the idiosyncrasies and elements of balance and control. So your handwriting is also, we can say, a determinant of what kind of a person you are. You are energetic, you are inhibitant, you are spontaneous. So all these, the handwriting experts also can judge a person on the basis of their handwriting. For example, the big letters and emphasis on capital letters, it indicates a tendency towards domination and competitiveness, and a slanting writing towards the right and moderate pressure and good legibility show leadership potential in a candidate. Now these are some of the miscellaneous tests that are somehow used in certain organizations. These are not very common, and not necessarily every organization or every job needs to be, the candidates need to be tested with these tests. But yes, as you must be aware of all the names in the selection tests. So the first one is the polygraph test. Polygraph test is just like a lie detector, and in vague terms we use it. So the polygraph test is basically conducted to ensure the accuracy of the information given by the candidates. The second one is the medical test. Medical test, you all know that it is conducted to ensure physical fitness to perform certain jobs. Medical tests are can be conducted at the beginning of the selection, for example in army or navy, or for induction into the police forces. Medical test is more we can say important in comparison to your other selection tests like intelligence or ability or situational test. So for certain jobs, medical test or the physical fitness test is conducted in the beginning of the selection test, but in certain cases it might be done once you have selected the candidate and you just want to know that he or she is physically fit or not. Then the next one is the drug test. It measures the presence of illegal performance affecting drugs, though it is not very common in India, but yes, in the US and the UK and in other parts of the Europe, drug tests are conducted for candidates before giving them the final okay. And then there is the genetic screening of these tests. It identifies genetic predispositions to specific medical problems. So if he or she has certain medical problems that may be judged during the genetic screening. So friends, today we learnt about the different types of tests, and these tests were very interesting to learn. Like we learnt of the graphology test, where you can judge a person on the basis of his or her handwriting. Then we also learnt of certain projective tests, the Rorschach test where ink blots are used, and thematic apperception test where certain pictures are shown to candidates, and how they perceive those pictures, how they interpret those pictures can help in judging a person. Then we also learnt about certain situational tests that given a particular situation of great importance or some peculiar situation, how you are going to cope up with that situation, how you are going to solve those situations. Then interest tests, whereby we learned that the interest of a particular candidate in that particular job is very important in determining the success of the candidate while performing his task. Then we also learnt about the various types of ability tests, the achievement test, and all these tests are very significant while you are selecting your people, and you must be very clear that which test is to be conducted for which type of a job. So, we will be continuing with the tests, and in the next couple of lectures we will discuss how to choose the right kind of the test. Thank you.